Hi, I'm Nicole, and this is Nick's Picks. I've been posting a video every month talking about the books that I picked out to read that month. So today I'm going to talk about the books that I read in May. May was a very busy month, so I haven't read as much as I've been reading, but I read 3 books, and I'm actually going to talk about 4. I'll explain later, but so I'm going to get started. So the first book I read is Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. Now this is part of the Rebel Blue Ranch series, which I talked about in my last video. I love this series so much. I can't recommend it enough. And as I said in my last video, every book just seemed to get better. No change here. This is the last book. I hate to make this statement because I'm not 100% sure, but might be my favorite one. I honestly can't decide. In terms of like the MMCs, the male main characters, is Dusty my favorite one? I don't know. They just keep getting better and they all seem different. I pretty much said this last time, and I brought all my books to show you one last time. Done and Dusted is the first in the series. Then you have Swift and Saddled and Lost and Lassoed. These covers are so beautiful. I love them so much. And then finally, the last one that I read this month, Wild and Wrangled. So basically, the first book, Done and Dusted, follows Emmy and Luke, and I'm not going to go through all this again, but her family owns Rebel Blue Ranch, and she has a dad, 2 brothers, and her best friend Teddy, and so we kind of know all of the characters throughout the books. This is her story, and then the second one is her brother Wes, and then this one is her brother Gus and her best friend Teddy, who are like enemies, so this was kind of like a highly anticipated and well worth it, like definitely hit the mark book. And then the last one, which is what I'm going to talk about now, these characters to me were like, this was the least anticipated romance. So basically, Emmy's brother Gus from this book has a daughter, and we know throughout the book that him and the daughter's mother, which is Cam, were never like together, but they are really good friends. She's like part of the family, but Cam is like such a background character. And going into this book, we know she's engaged, and we know that her, high school sweetheart or, someone from her past, Dusty, is back in town. But these characters are so irrelevant leading up to this book. Like, it's just set up. Like, we're dropping this so that we can, hear about their romance. But we don't necessarily feel much for them leading up to this. But oh my God, one of my favorites. And I will say it is a second chance romance trope, which I love. So I'm sure that factored into how much I love this book. Also uses flashback, which I love. When I write, I do that all the time too, where we talk about now and we talk about then. So we see them in high school. We see the origins. We see what's going on now. We see everything. And we even see what happened with her and Gus, like how they had Riley and stuff like that. So it was just so good. I can't even explain it. And even like the spice factor, the smut factor, awesome. It was there like every other book. But that wasn't even like the best part to me for this. It was more just the romance, the flirting, just how they were with each other, the way he was there for her. It was great. And like I said, different male main character than the other books. Different female main character than the other books. It's hard because like this series, it all takes place. These are just cowboy romances on this same ranch with these same people, and yet they don't feel the same. Everybody has something unique going on, something unique about their personality, even just like sexually and romantically, like you're falling in love with different things for all of these men. I even said like the terms of endearment are like different for every book. Like Luke used sugar, and I think Wes, it was the sweetheart, and Gus says baby. And so I was like highly anticipating, well, what's this guy going to say? And wasn't one that was on my list. It was a little something different. I'm actually not even going to say it because I don't even want to spoil it. That it worked for him. It was perfect for him. So it was great. And I will say this page is dog-eared forever. It's page 124. Second to last paragraph, or 2 from the bottom paragraphs, might be one of my favorite romantic lines of all time that I've ever read. A bold statement, but it was nothing. It wasn't like even this big declaration. It was nothing. It was just an everyday little moment. And yes, it was a big deal moment, but it was so perfect. And I just loved that line. It took my breath away. Something so simple and nothing, but it was amazing. And I think that might be one of my favorite lines ever. Then that's like saying something. Just a very simple moment, simple line, and I loved it. So that was great. If I had to put a downside to this, I would say I hate that this has been happening a lot lately where I'll go in and like, this is a 5-star read. I'm like loving it, loving it. Like there's nothing wrong with it. But then all of a sudden, just something towards the end just kind of falls off for me. Like and nothing happened. Like, their story ended the way we hoped it would. We even heard a little bit about Emmy at the end to kind of tie it all back together because this was the end of the series. So there was nothing wrong with it. I don't wish it played out differently, anything like that. But I just kind of like was losing a bit of interest towards the end, or wishing like maybe a bigger moment happened with Dusty and Kim at the end. I don't know, but again, it was great. It was great, and I loved all of the books in this series, and I am going to highly recommend it and say one more time, like I said in the last video, Done and Dusted was great. I had a little issues here and there maybe, but if you read this and think, I'm not head over heels for this, keep going, because honestly, to me, this was not my favorite book in this series, and they did honestly just get better and better. Wes, her brother Wes, I didn't care about him at all. First chapter into this book, I cared and I wanted to hear everything about his romance. Gus, and Teddy, this was like a highly anticipated because they were enemies to lovers type thing. It was great. And then again, was not invested in Cam or Dusty really. It was just, all right, here's going to be another romance, and so great, so sweet, so flirty, so fun. Again, the second chance romance, I love that. The flashbacks and going back and forth high school, and now it was perfect, and it was a perfect ending to the series, and I loved it. So again, I'm going to say I recommend moving on past Done and Dusted, even if you don't feel so strongly after this book. And I'm not big for rereading because there's just so much I want to read that, like, but I almost feel like I want to reread this now that I'm in the world, now that I'm whatever, just to, because I feel like even when you watch TV or something like that, like the pilot episode is often not the best one. It's just getting you in, getting you set up, and then it gets better from there. That's definitely what happened here. I felt like, and this was great. I'm not saying it was bad. This was a great book, but I would rate some of the other ones higher for sure. I'm on the fence. I can't even say like 2, 3, 4. I don't even know which one my favorite is. I keep going back to this one, like maybe it's this one, but I feel like that last book was really great and really perfect. So I would definitely recommend this and the entire series. And I'll just show you one more time because we're putting them back on the shelf for good now. I started because I just loved this cover and picked it up in Barnes & Noble. Didn't really know about this series. It's a signed copy, so I just thought that was cool. And I love it. And then the rest I have, and just the covers, they are just so great. These covers are amazing. They're amazing. And these were all really good books, and I really would recommend them. Next was also a highly anticipated read, Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. So this, as you can see here, Reese's Book Club. This is one of the books that Reese Witherspoon recommends from her book club. I had seen a video with her promoting it, and it sounded really good. I've seen a lot of book talk, booktube videos talking about, only positive things. So I was really looking forward to it, and it didn't disappoint. This was a great book. I would totally recommend it. So basically the premise here is Beth and Frank live on a farm, and they live with his brother Jimmy, and they work on this farm. And then Beth's first love, Gabriel, who kind of moved away, became a famous writer. He comes back and lives in his childhood home with his son, Leo. And it just kind of goes from there. It's very slice of life. There is a murder mystery kind of going on. We find out straight away that it says the farmer has died, and everyone wants to know who did it. All anyone cares about is who did it. So we kind of alternate between a lot of things. We alternate between present. We alternate between snippets from present meaning like we alternate between the trial of whatever's going on, but it's kept very vague. We don't know who's on trial. We don't know if this was a murder or an accident or what's happening here with that. We're also seeing Frank and Beth's life. We're also seeing flashbacks to when Beth was with Gabriel. So it's a lot of back and forth, but again, not hard to keep track of. You totally know what's going on at all times. Again, I just mentioned I love like a second chance romance, and that's what this was. I'm not going to give too much away in terms of like how it plays out. I will say, was I over the moon about the ending? It was fine. It worked. I understood why it went that way. There were other ways it could have gone that I would have also been fine with. The other thing I'm going to say is there was no like super big twist. Like, not very many characters in this book. So, and the way they pace it, it was just kind of like by the time we find out what's going on, we're like kind of prepared for it and in our heads like maybe moving that way a bit, so it's not like a huge shock to me anything that happens. There are one or two things that drop that maybe you won't see coming, but nothing huge for me here that like was like, oh my god, like I was kind of thinking along the lines of everything that was happening by the time we got there. So yes, at the beginning we have no idea what's going on, but as the story unfolds, you're kind of like, it's not like a untypical like murder mystery where all of a sudden there's like this big drop shock twist. I feel like by the time that like moment comes here, you've probably already considered that option, and we're already there, deliberately. Like I feel like, you know. So the pacing was great. Again, towards the end, it was a kind of a bit like, you know, all right, let's end it. Like I wish we were getting to the end. But wonderful, wonderful book. Definitely a recommendation from me. I would definitely recommend this book for anyone. And again, just the elements of the mystery and the romance together, two of my favorite genres, kind of like melding here, was perfect. The writing, it was very smart, very well done. It was definitely an excellent book, so I would totally recommend this book. Now I'm going to say the opposite. So the third book I read is Keep It in the Family by John Mars. Now, when I tell you, ever since I started obsessively reading, like this year, like I'm kind of like obsessively reading. I've always loved reading, but it's been like kind of obsessive this year. This was on my TBR. I wanted to read this book so badly. Ever since I've been watching the book talk, booktube videos, when you see anything about mysteries, John Mars is on there. This book and his other book, What Lies Between Us, is always up there, and everybody always, you know, kind of puts it on a pedestal when it comes to mysteries. I've not read anything by John Mars before this. I was very, very curious to get into this. This book sounded great, and again, just hearing people talk about it, they were so shocked, and what a big twist, and like, you know, they referenced chapter 39 or whatever's going, and I couldn't always get my hands on it. And every time I was in the bookstore, it just, when I would look through my TBR and start looking for things, they never seemed to have this. So it just took forever by the time, you know, I got it, because it was ordered on Amazon and all that stuff. So now that I finally had it in hand and I was like, I picked it up, I'm like, here we go, Keep It in the Family. This book was so disturbing and unsettling. I truly disliked this book. Even the pacing, you know, it started off with like movement and then it just got slow, and I just disturbing. And it's so weird for me to say something like that, because I've mentioned this before. I am a horror person. I love horror movies. I love horror books. My favorite author is Stephen King. He's, you know, he could be very twisted. His son, Joe Hill, even more so sometimes. I love horror graphic novels. Basket Full of Heads by Joe Hill is like it's so disturbing or whatever, but it's like, it's great. I do not shy away from gory. I do not shy away from disturbing. And I would never say somebody crosses a line, because to me, there's no such thing in fiction. Like, your imagination runs wild. That's the beauty of being a writer, the beauty of being an author. And I feel like all of us, if we dug deep, could come up with something to this level if you let your imagination run wild. So I'm not like saying he crossed a line, but I think it crossed a personal line for me, because there are certain topics that I just can't seem to enjoy in any capacity. Like, yes, blood and gore and all that stuff, but when it relates to certain things, I can't get behind it, I guess. And one of them is like children. So I don't like rape. I don't like anything sexually, adult or children. I don't really like to read about like sexual torture or even just physical torture. I'm not big on gang violence. I'm not big on like, again, anything involving children being tortured or like hurt. And it's not even necessarily that I personally experienced anything like that, but I just, as a parent, cannot help putting my kid in my head in these scenarios. And it's not fun at all. Like, not even a little bit. It just is something that I try not to think about now. Having read this book, I mean, everything in here is kind of going in this little locked door in my head that I'm hoping to never open again. I just can't, like, without reading books like this and watching movies or shows like this, my imagination runs wild when it comes to my kid and terrible things that could happen. That happens to all of us as parents, where we just imagine these terrible scenarios and try to protect our kids from everything. But this was pretty much just all about child crimes and torture. Now, going in, I did kind of know this, so you might think, well, why did you read it? So, I mean, the premise of the book, Mia and Finn buy a house, and they discover that there were crimes that happened there, and that the danger might still be present. So that's kind of like the premise of the book. I guess I just thought it would maybe be referenced. Like, I could deal with, like, this might have happened and whatever. I didn't expect this was also a back and forth where we went back in time and from the very beginning. So but I guess when I read it in the beginning, I just thought, okay, so this is what happened, and now we're going to move forward to the present and see what's going on now. No, we keep going back. Again, it's not even like it gets into graphic detail about what they do to these kids, but it alludes to a lot of stuff, and it's more detail than I care to read about with that type of subject matter. And it was just tough. It was just tough to read and think about that stuff. So that was strike one for me. I have two big negatives on this. Number one was just the subject matter. It was too dark for me because of the specific thing it covered that I just don't enjoy reading or watching things about. And I even say that, but like, I don't like torture, and yet the Saw movies, I love them. And the reason I love them is because despite that stuff, which I can get through, it is so well done, and those movies are so, like, the plot and what's going on, there's so much happening. Those movies are amazing for that reason. I enjoy the story. That's my second big downfall with this book. It was not worth it. Like, it wasn't even worth dealing with that stuff to get to the story, to get to the big twist, like all this stuff. There was no big twist here for me. There are very few characters in this book. Again, we have Mia, we have Finn, we have Finn's parents. We have one or two, Finn's ex-girlfriend. We have a friend that Mia makes now. That's it. So there's really like not many options. And I always say, when you've read so many mysteries and thrillers, like, your mind just goes there. You've kind of run through the scenarios without even actively sleuthing. I've played out every possible scenario at this point. And by the time we got there, there's a few surprises. I was not surprised by anything, and with a quote big surprise, I definitely ran through that possibility already, and I was not totally shocked by that at all. Even like that chapter 39, it was funny. And I did the same thing myself. I'm sorry. I wish I didn't hear about that, because it would have just been funnier reading that. Like, it was anticipated, so okay, and now here it is. It was not for me, and I would not recommend this book to anyone. I don't even think to say like, oh, well, if you could handle this subject matter, it's worth it. Nope, not in my opinion. Not in my opinion. It was fairly long. I stayed up so late last night just trying to finish this book for two reasons. Number one, because I wanted to just finish it and include it in this video. And number two, I just wanted to be done with it and move on. Like, I could not. This was not for me, and it was not worth it at all. And again, heavy subject matter with like children murders / alluding to things and stuff like that, that if you're not into that, I would not read this book. And even if you are, I would not, this was, to me, was not just a great thriller in and of itself. I mean, a lot of different perspectives. We hear from everyone. You know, the chapter will start, oh, this is me, or this is Dave or Debbie, his parents, you know, so we know who we're hearing from. A little confusing because it goes back. When it goes back, it's always like, oh, 39 years earlier, 34 years earlier, 24 years earlier. So at that point, like, I'm not even figuring out, because you don't know who this person is in the past that's talking. And I'm not even like figuring it out at this point because it was just too much. Like, I didn't get 39, 34, 24, whatever it was. Like, it was just, you know, I wish it was just like then and now, because like we just jumped around a little bit in the past and it was just a little hard to keep track of that. This was not for me. This was not for me. I didn't really find even any of the characters, like, they all were just like unlikable, and I guess purposefully so. It was not for me. I would not recommend this book, and I really wish I knew, because I was so excited. I thought John Mars was going to be like my new favorite, because everybody talks about him. So I wish I knew if I should even move forward, like What Lies Between Us. Is that going to have like vibes like this where it's not worth it and I don't care? Or might this just be maybe the subject matter that turned me off and I should move on and try other stories of his? I don't know. So I don't know if any John Mars fans are watching this, and you could give me some advice on if I didn't like this, I'm not going to like anything, or maybe this was a one-off for me because of the subject matter, but I might like something else. I don't know. But from my opinion, and again, coming from someone that loves dark stuff, that loves horror, that, you know, this was just a little too disturbing and unsettling for me. Again, probably because of the subject matter, that I just don't enjoy, you know, thinking about children getting hurt and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It was not for me. Now, this fourth book, that's technically all I read in May, because today is June 1st and I read this book this morning. So technically this is part of my June video, and I guess I'll mention it again then. But I just thought it was a good follow-up to what I just said. So talking about disturbing, after reading that book that I was so unsettled by, I jumped right into Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees by Patrick Horvath. And as you can see, it is a graphic novel, but like horror. And it was so cool. I'm going to say this was like busy town from when we were kids, Berenstein Bears. You could see these pictures, but it's murder. It's, you know, this bear is a serial killer. This was so crazy cool. Again, I don't want to give away the story, but I want you to see how great like some of these illustrations are. It was so, you know, a small town. Like, I love the town. And again, it reminded me of childhood books. Even like these newspaper things were cool. It reminded me of childhood reading, but a very, very adult subject matter. And, you know, it was great. It was just great. I was just trying to find a good page to maybe show you, but basically, this bear, Samantha, is kind of like a serial killer, and she doesn't do what she does in her town because it's a small town and everyone will talk, and she doesn't want to be discovered. She kind of goes into the city to do what she needs to do. But then somebody else murders someone in the town. You could say this is like, again, gives you Berenstein Bears, busy town, that kind of vibe. They say Wind in the Willows, like that, just that kind of vibe. But it's blood and it's gore, and it's great. So somebody else commits a murder, and so she's kind of trying to figure out who did it so that they don't dig too deep and you know, find out anything about her. And again, twist was good. It was a quick read. Again, I read it today. It's June 1st, and I read it, you know, a couple of hours. Not even. And it was so good. It was so good. It's so different, like just something different. I love horror graphic novels, and this didn't disappoint. It was like so unique, so different. And I really, really did enjoy this book, and I would recommend it if you like blood and gore and graphic novels that are a bit, you know, graphic and, you know, scary. Not scary, but, you know, disturbing. So that's what I'm saying. There was a difference there. Did not like this disturbing, but I loved this. This was great. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for me for May. So as you know, this is my first June book, so I'll mention that again next time because I loved it so much, and I'll definitely recommend it again in the next video. And I think I might start Fourth Wing I bought the book and I'm very excited. I got the one with the sprayed edges with the dragons on it. So I think that might be something we're going to talk about next month in June. But that's it. So see you in the next video.